Ohio State's defense has been relentless during the playoff, but can they maintain their physical, violent play against Texas?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens podcast. And today's episode, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we'll dive into the stars of the Buckeyes defense during the college football playoff, as well as how the defense can maintain momentum against Texas. But before we get to any of that, I got to welcome in one of my guys. He's been very, very busy coaching down there in Texas, and I'm glad that Mo Murphy of the Off the Ball Network, the Up in Flames podcast, can come back on the show during a playoff run. The Buckeyes have knocked off Tennessee. They beat the brakes off Oregon. Texas is next on Friday night. And Mo, one thing I've loved about this defense so far is they've played physical, they've played violent, and I think those two things fans can expect the Buckeyes defense to do against Texas.
Yeah, first off, Jay, I appreciate you for having me on again. It's always a blessing to be on Locked On Buckeyes. But I agree with you as far as the defense. They are playing violent. They're playing with something to prove. It's almost like coming into this playoff run, they're playing how we expected them to play all season. And, like, for the most part, our defense has played excellent. Like, the focus has been on the offense and not scoring enough points in games and things like that, not running up the score and showing off all our flashy trophies. But, like, I think our defense got pushed to the wayside how good they've actually been this year, because everybody only points to the one game where, you know, we gave up, 31 to Oregon? Like, we lose 33 or 32. We lose by 1 point. But, like, we gave up that to Oregon. And so, you know, when you play a top 5 team in Oregon, that's an end-all, be-all as far as that's how we judge you for the rest of the season. But this defense, since that Oregon game, has been lights out. And so I think coming into the playoffs is like, okay, but you got to prove it against Tennessee. And so when they proved it against Tennessee, it's like, well, you know, Tennessee's offense was struggling a little bit. If you're able to make Nico have to beat you with his arm and you take away the run game and Dylan Sampson, then you might have figured out their offense. They don't have the weapons you're accustomed to, like, you know, their head coach's offense to have. So it's kind of like a lot of excuses for why the defense played so well and put on the show against Tennessee. So then they play against Oregon. And basically, I mean, this is the game of, like, this is prove it. Like, if you're as good as that Tennessee game says you are, then prove it. And so our offense came out locked in. But, like, you got to think about it. Here's the thing that gets overshadowed. We talk about Jeremiah Smith so much. We talk about how great Will Howard's been playing. But, like, that game could have very well been a shootout. Like, our offense came to play and was playing lights out, but it could have been 7-7. Then we come and score 14. Then we give up. Like, but our defense played lights out, and we jump out 34-0, Jay. Like, as much as we want to give our credit to our offense because we put up 34 points, Jay, we didn't allow a point. Like, you know, there was a point in time, I think in the first half, except until the final drive of the first half, Oregon didn't cross the 50-yard line. So, like, that's all credit to the defense of us and being able to get the stops and getting the offensive ball back constantly. When they didn't cross until the final drive of the first half where, like, you're up 34-0, you're going to finally, you know, a team as good as Oregon going to finally get something, and they get something going at the end of the first half to try and give them some type of hope, some type of momentum heading into halftime. But other than that, they didn't cross the 50-yard line. Like, everything to me is should be the focus on the defense. But obviously when you have a generational talent like Jeremiah Smith putting up the numbers that he puts up and scoring the touchdowns and the flash, like, yes, all the focus will be on him. But I think, like, in a sense, you're starting to be able to see in the national spotlight in these standalone games how great this defense is.
So you made a comment earlier about how this is how we expected the defense to play, and also highlighting that basically the defense has not been the problem. They've been lights out since that Oregon game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes into why people can expect this same type of play against Texas this weekend. Texas's offense is good. I think Sonny Styles said if you let them, Texas can score 50 points on you. Now, I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. Just get that out the way. I don't think Texas is going to score 50 points against Ohio State's defense. I actually think the Buckeyes defense might actually be better than they have been the past couple of games, which could be scary things for the Longhorns fans. But, man, we're getting right now Ohio State's team in general. And I know it's supposed to be a defensive show, but you talk about that offense. We're getting both sides of the ball, doing what we expected them to do all season long. Offense starts off fast, start being explosive, getting the ball to number 4, the pass at the will offense with Jeremiah Smith. He just goes up there and make catches. But the defense is finding a way to get pressure on the quarterback. The secondary is covering at an elite level. Your linebackers are playing elite football. I mean, this team right now is just playing the type of ball we expected them to do all season long. They're getting it right now in the playoff, which means Texas should be very, very worried about what Ohio State's going to do Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, in everything is because of like it's now the talent is matching the production, or the production is matching the talent. Like we knew, especially on the defensive side of the ball, adding Caleb Downs, like having the secondary that we have, bringing back JTT and Jack Sawyer, like being able to bring back everything that we have, moving around guys from linebacker position, moving them from safety. Like we made a whole bunch of moves. We know how good a defense, a Jim Knowles defense can be, and so we added some pieces, and it's like even in the lost to Michigan, right? Like it was 13-10. Like we held Michigan to 13 points. Like in a sense, you start to look back at the one drive when they scored a touchdown, but you're like, we held them to 13 points. Like we did our job. Like in a sense, when our offense couldn't get much going against Indiana it took them a long time. Like Indiana never got going either though. And so when we finally got going, we were able to pull away. Same thing with Penn State. Like as long as it took us to get going and pull away from Penn State, make us feel comfortable about winning the game, Penn State was never able to get going because of how great our defense has been. And so outside of a couple big plays that we gave up on some one-on-one matchups in the Oregon game, like our defense still played pretty solid and they played good down the stretch. And so now you're seeing them play and against offenses that we were told are fairly elite. Like Oregon's supposed to be the best team in the country. Tennessee's supposed to have a really good young quarterback with a really good offense and a really good offensive-minded head coach. And Jim Knowles and his defense has made them look silly. And so I know it's another test and another battle, but I mean, is Ohio State coming into this defensively trying to answer any questions, or is this just a validation effort to tell you how good we are? And like, I think in a sense in this run, there's a chance where like they could put on a historical performance. And I know, this is the first 12-team playoff. So this is the first time you've played multiple games like this in a playoff, but this defense could be like historical because you're going against some of the best offensive minds that college football got to offer right now. And you're making them look silly. Like you are making these teams and this talent look silly. And it's scary. Like it's almost like and I think because of the defense playing so well, now that the offense is clicked, we look like a full team. But this defense ain't playing no better, essentially, than they've been playing all year. It just looks a lot better when we're scoring a bunch of points with it. It looks a lot better when the offense meets them in the middle and we get them on a 3 and out. And we get them out of there, and Caleb Downs makes a good tackle to say in an open field to stop the running back, and now he forces a 4th and 2. It looks a lot better when the offense comes back down and Jeremiah Smith goes for a 40-yard touchdown catch. So, like, now that the offense is matching the production of the defense, we are putting up a lot of points and holding teams to the points that we've been holding them to pretty much all year. We've been holding these type of teams to these type of amount of points all year, but our offense hasn't been putting up 40-plus consistently. So now that we're doing that, you think you're seeing this, like, different explosive defense, but I mean numbers wise, like some guys are playing better, but essentially like this been the defense all along. It just looks a lot different, especially when the offense is scoring so fast. So we are putting the defense back out there quick, and they're constantly making plays.
They're constantly making plays, and as they're making plays and as they're playing elite football right now on the defensive side of the ball, really the whole team, I'm really wondering how Ohio State is able to maintain momentum going up against Texas. Mo and I will dive into that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Simply visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Mo, you can only imagine how excited I have been with the way Ohio State's played. But they were, at some point, while they were maybe favored by Vegas, I think there were a lot of people that were really wondering what Ohio State was going to do against Oregon because you remember the first meeting, and you've also seen Ohio State kind of flop in areas where they really shouldn't have. They're right now the favorite to not only beat Texas, they're favored to win the national championship by a lot of sports books out there. How does Ohio State maintain their momentum against this game against Texas?
I mean, this is in a sense where some of the old school cats talk about that dog mentality. And this is where, people fall in love with the Mamba mentality and the Kobe mentality. The job's not finished. Like, you're putting on a show, but it's not over with. Like, because at the end of the day, you still, you really haven't won nothing. And, as the senior class that returned, in a sense, Ryan Day, we've been impressive. And I think, if Ryan Day was coaching for his job, in a sense, entering these playoffs, I think he secured that regardless, unless we were just to get beat by 40 by Texas. I don't think that's happening. But I think in a sense, the job's not finished. Like, if I'm a senior and I still didn't beat Michigan this year, I didn't win the Big Ten championship. So the only way to make all of that right, of all the things that basically my career at Ohio State has been affected, the only thing to make that right is win the national championship. And people could have these silly arguments all you want. And if you're an Ohio State fan that says I'd rather beat Michigan in the same season than win a national championship, then you're crazy. I'm sorry, because that hardware being the best team in the country is more important than a regular season win at the end of the day, in my opinion, no matter how big the rivalry is. But I think it's just the job's not finished. And this is how you right the ship. This is how you go win it all. Yeah, I couldn't beat Michigan. I spent 4 years here, and I was a part of the team that couldn't beat Michigan. I was part of that class. I couldn't win a Big Ten championship, but I righted the ship, and I rode off into the sunset by winning it all. And so all these guys got to keep that same mentality. And some of these guys are building up their draft stock, the Caleb Downs, the guys that are coming back next year. The Jeremiah Smith that people are already like, if he entered the draft this year, he'd be a first-round pick. So how you maintain momentum is you got to have that Mamba mentality of the job's not finished. And we got to keep – we got people on when we got our foot on their neck. We got to keep squeezing. We got to squeeze the life out of these teams on both sides of the ball. And so defensively, we got to get physical. We got to hit them where it hurts. We got to expose the fact that this is a long season that college athletes aren't used to. It's cold outside now. These hits hurt a little worse. These injuries bug you a little more. These ailments start to, pop up a little more throughout the week. So we got to be violent and expose that. And I think that's what Ohio State's going to do. I think they understand the mission. And now that it's facing them to where they control their own destiny, I think that's how they maintain momentum. We control our own destiny. And so if we fold and we don't play the way we've been playing, then it's all in our hands and it'll be on us. But we control this, and I think that'll be their motivation to maintain the momentum into this national title run.
One thing Ryan Day has said this week and even previous weeks before the Tennessee game, talk about the boys earning another right to just wear the scarlet and gray and just to be able to work with their brothers one more time. I think the national championship run, that in and of itself is one of those things where, yeah, that should motivate you enough. But being able to have added motivation to realize I don't have another game. This might be my last game with my dog. For Caleb Downs to say, this might be my last game with Lathan Ransom. It doesn't have to be. So let's go out there, do what we need to do to make sure that we got one more game to play together. For Will Howard, he wants to keep throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Buka and Carnell Tate. If he flops against Texas, hey, it's over. You're not wearing that jersey no more, and these guys are not your teammates. So I think that aspect is huge right now because, yeah, you got that title, but you also got to realize you enjoy playing football with this unit so much that you don't want to make this the last game that you play with them because, well, we laid an egg or we flopped on 3rd and 8. I didn't realize where the yard marker was, so I went down at the 7.5 mark instead of going past that 8-yard mark to get the first down. The little details are going to be massive for Ohio State to keep this momentum. And I believe they can. I have no doubt at all that Ohio State is going to go in against Texas and beat the Longhorns. I have no doubt at all that Ohio State has a mentality and has the approach that is needed for them to win the national championship. I know it's the Monday of Texas week. I know the national championship is not until January 20th. I don't care. The way this team is playing, they're going to maintain their momentum, and they're going to win that natty, which Ryan Day desperately needs.
Yeah, and I think this will, I guess, right all the wrongs in a sense. And so I think it's a motivation for Ryan Day too. I can right the ship right here. Yeah, I've messed up and I haven't been able, and maybe the Michigan matchup is now it's mental. And I did try and prove a point that we are tougher than them and we can out physical them as opposed to just letting our superstars win us the game and getting the ball in our playmakers' hands. Like I went away from that. I let my ego get in the way. But I can write all of that by winning. I mean, nothing is better than winning a national championship at the end of the day. Like, because you could tell me like, oh, well, I'd rather beat Michigan and I'd rather win a Big Ten championship. And we weren't able to do that. But like the team that did that is Oregon and they're at home now. Like we beat them. Like the team that won the Big Ten championship, the team that went undefeated, you know, the team that won all the regular season games that you so concerned about, whether it's a rivalry or not, they're at home right now and we're playing in the semifinal. We're competing for a national championship. And so I would take that any day of the week. And so that's got to be like for Ryan Day, like I don't think, why would you go away from how you've been coaching at this point?
Right.
Why would Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, or Jim Knowles run away from what's been working? And so at this point, I think it would be a shock if we didn't maintain this momentum. And I think it would be on coaches more than players. Like, I don't think there's a single player in that locker room that's not motivated to win the national championship. At this point, too, like all the pressure that's been put on them, some of the guys, this $20 million roster that everybody's talking about, like now we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we feel like we're the best team in it. I'm sure every one of those guys in the locker room want to win the national championship and understand they're probably the most talented team left of the four. They would be favored, and they don't care about Vegas odds, but they know when they step on that field, they're the team that's expected to win. So I think that's enough motivation for the players within itself, and Ryan Day knowing like, man, this can change my entire legacy. And I mean, obviously, like, you know, Ryan Day keeps this momentum up, pounds Texas and pounds whoever we got playing the national championship. I'm sure he gets a 10-year and just blank check extension to coach at Ohio State, because you know how big a deal it is for you to be able to win the national championship. And so for him to be able to keep putting together these competitive teams and finally putting a stamp on it, I think that's how he maintains this momentum is, you know, I just got to keep coaching aggressive and got to keep trusting my coordinators too. So keep trusting Chip Kelly, keep trusting Jim Knowles, let Jim Knowles handle what he's done on defense. Like obviously he knows what he's doing. You arguably got the best defense in the country. You definitely, I think arguably have the best defense left out of the four teams, but you've arguably had the best defense in the country all year. So I think maintain momentum is just whatever has gotten you here, continue to do it. Don't run away from what's gotten you here. The formula works. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
What's been your best part about that formula that's been working for Ohio State's defense?
The best part, man, really the pressure on the quarterback. Like, and to see it back-to-back weeks with guys who can move. Like, Dylan Gabriel and Nico aren't Lamar Jackson back there with their legs, but they could extend plays with their legs. They could create plays. They could get first down with their legs. They can, you know, basically change the way you have to play a defense with their legs if you allow them to beat you that way. And so one of the things that we haven't done the best is get pressure on the quarterback. Like we weren't getting the home runs. We're getting pressure on the quarterback, but we're not getting sacks. So the most impressive thing has been getting back there and watching the pocket crumble and the quarterback go down for negative yards. Like seeing that and hitting home, and then that's created the interceptions and that's created the tip passes and the opportunities that we've made, and just it's created mayhem for the offensive coordinators on the other side. Is the fact that not only are they getting pressure, but we've made both the quarterbacks feel uncomfortable, which I think even in the Oregon game was something, because we weren't getting the home runs and getting sacks. We were getting pressure, but Gabriel never felt like a sack was going to come down, so he never felt uncomfortable. The minute we made him feel uncomfortable, though, and had him running frantic, like you've seen what it looks like. So just as great as the defense have played, and I know we're going to talk about some of the star individuals, but just the fact that we've been able to get home and have so many negative plays, tackles for losses on rushing attempts and sacks. Like those two things, and our two guys on the edge being able to come together, and I think combined for in these two games, like 8.5, 9 sacks combined, 7, 8 tackles for losses, like a bunch of 20-some quarterback pressures combined. So like those two, just being able to see all that, like this defensive line really just mesh as like a unit, and they've done it in the run game and in the pass game.
Ohio State's defense has been playing elite football, not just in the playoff, but in really all season long. But who have been some of the stars on the Buckeyes defense during this playoff run? Mo and I would discuss that next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you all the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through the deals was a breeze, and I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The super deal stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying and that the app shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, Mo, we talked before the show started, and you and I could have done 30 or 45 minutes just on various guys on the Buckeyes defense about how well they played during this run. I'm going to go on this one first just because I feel like not turning it over to you yet. My first star that comes to this Buckeyes defense is Caleb Downs.
Yeah, you
He's
had
kind of the – I had to.
Yeah.
He's that guy that when you think about when in Little League that you get a guy that's just good and better than everybody else, and the coach is like, I don't know where to put you. I'm going to put you here. Well, just go play football. So hold on. You don't put no defensive end, no linebacker. No. I'm going to put you right here in this spot and just go play football. And that's what Caleb Downs has been doing every single game. He's been in that Buckeye uniform. He's just played football, but it's at a level right now, and you're on a massive stage where Buckeyes are getting a lot more eyeballs than they got in the regular season, which is the playoff is going to happen. Man, he's just out there playing football. It's so much fun to watch. I compare him a little bit to Troy Polamalu with the ability to roam around the field. I don't know that's a great player comp. That's not my expertise. But Caleb Downs has just been a dog, man. You pair him with Lathan Ransom, those two guys work so well together. But the star of the defense so far, to me, these first couple of games have been Caleb Downs. He's just been getting the job done.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's like we knew, like, when you speak of stars, you lead with Caleb Downs and then you give flowers to everybody else. And so it's only right for you on your show to give him his flowers. But you're right, though. Like, it's not enough that can be said about Caleb Downs. And it does seem like Jim Knowles has kind of just taken advantage of how much of a playmaker he can be. And he's like, you know what? Like, bro, I'll base this defense around you. Like, just make plays. Like, and you know, I made the analogy before the show that I'm like, he's like Spencer James off of All-American. Like, you just got this feel for the game that nobody else does. And so I trust your instincts. So you let me know what you see, and I'm rocking with you one way or the other. And so, but my other guy, you know, you mentioned Lathan Ransom and how they are as a duo. Tylee Williams. Like, Tylee Williams has been a run stuffer. He has been probably the biggest reason why JTT and Jack Sawyer were able to hit so many home runs is for the simple fact that Tylee Williams has stuffed the middle in this playoff run. These past two games, what he's been able to do to stop the run, what he's been able to do to force Dylan Gabriel or force Nico to have to escape outside while JTT and Jack Sawyer collapsing the outside has been like an underrated thing. And sometimes, you know, those defensive tackles, because statistically they're not, you know, their statistics in the analytics isn't like sexy to everybody. You don't really understand the impact they have, especially when you talk about the flashy edge rushers and the corners that get the interceptions and the Caleb Downses that make all the plays. Like, you get lost in translation. Like, when Tylee Williams is playing at his best, this defense is playing at their best. And so with him being a game wrecker in the run game and the pass game, being able to break down that pocket and break down the interior of that offensive line and create a lot of one-on-one matchups for our guys that really win the one-on-one matchups 9 times out of 10 and are able to hit home and just be able to collapse pocket. Tylee Williams, I got to give him his credit because, like, he just looks like a monster in the middle right about now. And he looks like a guy that I don't care right now about the projected top 10 picks, blah, blah, blah. But, like, he looks like one of the 10 best players in college football as far as from a production standpoint. And he looks NFL ready, like just a guy that can stop that in the middle. Sometimes you just can't teach that. And his knack for just being able to find the ball when the running game he doesn't really let too many plays get to the linebacker level. So I love what I'm seeing from Tylee Williams.
It's crazy you mentioned him because I remember during the Tennessee game, and even after the game, rewatching it, I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, Tyleek is moving better than he did during the last half of the year. And I don't know if he had an injury that he wasn't able to heal up. I'm not really sure. But there was times you had a defensive end crash down and Tyleek Williams loop around. And these are on design pass plays. And Tyleek is like, oh, I'm going to get on my high horse and get back there to the quarterback. And over and over and over again, his presence was felt while getting pressure on the quarterback. And you discussed so well his ability to just stuff the run. This is what you expect from him. Like the guys are going to highlight here, and I got another one here coming up in a second. We expect this right now because of what their track record has been and what the film has said about them so far during their Buckeye career. And Tylee, to me, JT and Jack have gotten a lot of attention. I'm going to turn back over to you before giving my next one. While JT and Jack have been kind of getting the attention, they're getting sacks that shows up in the stat sheet. They're going to get all that praise. Man, Tylee has just been kind of just that quiet assassin. Y'all can get all the noise. Y'all can hype up the crowds. I'm going to do my job right here in the middle of stuff, whatever the offense is trying to do. And I like guys like that because he doesn't need the praise. He's just going to get the job done.
Yeah, and guys like Tylee Williams are guys that have long careers because, like, the football knowers, the ball knowers, the scouts, the people that are really watching the game, not from the fan perspective, but, like, and we get caught up in watching these games from the fan perspective. So I'm not saying, like, oh, if you don't know football like me, you won't understand. But I'm just saying, like, when it doesn't jump out at the stat sheet and it's not the 5-star number one player in the country that's finally breaking out, looking like a superstar, projected first-round pick, like, you don't see the impact. But when you just watch it and you're watching the pocket collapse and you're like, well, the tackle, they had to double down on the inside on Tylee Williams and it left JTT one-on-one. Quick little swim move, spin move, boom. He's right there at the quarterback and the quarterback's going down and it's less than 3 seconds. Like, they don't have a lot of time back there, but it's because of the attention he's getting in the middle. And so, like you said, I just love the fact that, I mean, we could praise everybody on the defense individually, but everything's clicking at all levels. And so Tylee Williams probably doesn't get enough love or praise for how well he's played in these 2 games.
I got one more here, and I hope we got enough time for something else. Another question for you. But Cody Simon has been playing the best ball of his Buckeye career. Game after game after game. He's playing like a man possessed. Doesn't matter if it's in coverage or if it's a run play. His instincts have been sharp. He's been able to play well with Sonny Styles. He's been able to read what's coming up pre-snap. So once the ball is snapped, he's right there in the right position. Cody Simon has been basically Jim Knowles on the field, it seems like, and he's been getting the job done consistently. And I think as big of a reason that the Buckeye defense is playing so well, Downs is going to get his praise. Ransom is going to get his praise. Tylee and JT and Jack, they're going to get theirs. But Cody Simon is a leader of the defense, and they're playing at the same level as their leader, which makes things great for the Buckeyes defense, and it's going to be a nightmare for Texas on Friday night.
Yeah, that was another guy that we talked about before the show. You had mentioned him before the show was Cody Simon and how good he's playing. And, like, you know, it's kind of like because the fact that he's been playing so well and it seems like the linebacker core was like the weakness of our defense, but he's been able to kind of mask that. And like I said, I just think as a defensive unit, we've been playing absolutely amazing, I think. But, like, he's been the star of the middle of that defense. Like, we've got the entire defensive line that we could give praise. We got our secondary, but obviously, like, Caleb Downs has been anchoring that secondary as far as the star and how good they've been. And Cody Simon has been, like, the star of the linebacker core and the reason why they're basically playing the way they're playing. And so together, it creates a tough unit. And so we always knew we had the talent, but the production wasn't matching the talent all year. I guess we expected a little more from the defense, but now that you're seeing it from the offense, these blowouts, like, we've held teams to these type of points that we should have been blowing them out from the jump if our offense was playing the way they've been playing these past 2 games throughout the entire year. Like, these scores would have been like a normal thing that you would have seen, and we probably also don't finish the season 10-2. Like, the projection of our season probably changes, and maybe we don't come into these playoffs as hungry. So, like, you know, just I think everything I think everything comes down to, man, that Michigan loss, as much as it stung, hurt, it might have been the biggest blessing. Like, as much of a curse as it was, it still might have been our biggest blessing. It might have woke up a monster in Ohio State, and I think this team and this defense is primed to basically win the national championship.
We touched on guys on every level, from D-line to linebacker to the guys in the secondary. What position group of those three has been your favorite to watch so far during the playoff?
The defensive line.
Okay.
Yep. Just because of everything I said, like as far as the home runs, like everything that they're doing, even when you go back and watch the replays, the quarterback's turning over the ball, wide receiver is like a bad pass to a wide receiver, an open wide receiver he may have missed. Like it's all because of the defensive line creating pressure and getting the home run sacks. And so now I make a throw that I wouldn't have made because they're getting their hands on me. They're getting me down. They're getting me down to the ground. And so it just changes me mentally. And so I think the way they've been reckoned as a unit, I don't know if there's been a better unit than them in a stretch of these past two games. I don't think anybody's been better than them. And I think that's high praise because like the best defensive line in college football was Tennessee. And we seen kind of what we did to them and kind of neutralize them. And I don't think anybody will be able to neutralize this team on the national championship run.
Last thing here, this is going to be a couple of coaches that I kind of praised on Friday's show for how well they've done. What coach among these two, and they could be either both, you may want to give flowers to both of them, but what coach among these two, Justin Fry or Larry Johnson, has done the best job during the playoffs? I know it's tough.
Justin Fry.
Okay.
Justin Fry. And I'm going to tell you because like the expectation of the offensive line. Wait, hold on. Yeah, because the expectation of the offensive line being depleted, being injured, being like, then we're missing recruits. And throughout this process, like we're missing out on big time recruits. These guys are getting injured. The talent, look at, he's been kind of killed for his recruiting. But the way that they've played is like, Will Howard hasn't been on his back. Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson have had holes to make some runs and make some big plays. Will Howard has had plenty of time back there. So I got to give the credit to the offensive line in Justin Fry and the offensive line coach, just because I think like with Larry Johnson, I think in the defensive line, like we've always known that talent was sitting there. Where with the offensive line, we've kind of questioned it. And then with losing pretty much everybody that were big contributors to our offensive line on this run, earlier in the regular season, I think it takes more. Basically, he's done more with less. I got less talent. I'm down to my backups, and pretty much all my entire starting unit is down, and our offensive line has been dominating as opposed to Larry Johnson. I think, you just got the defensive line to finally play to its full potential.
And I agree with you on both of those. The defensive line on defense has been like the biggest thing for me, with just how consistent they've been, and they've been doing stuff. The talent's been there, but they're finally getting that production, like you said so well. I didn't have high hopes for the O-line in the playoff at all. I didn't. I thought when they told me you're going to rotate at guard and play three guards, I was like, oh, this is a disaster. This is what you do when you're a lower level school that literally doesn't have the talent that in Ohio State or in Oregon or fill in the blank elite school out there that they should have. Ohio State's found a formula. As unconventional as it is, they found a formula that works. And Mo, I really enjoy what we're seeing from the O-line. And we get almost about a time. I'll turn it back over to you, though, because I do think it's O-line, with them being able to build momentum and to build a lot of confidence with what they're doing and get practice time together, they might be hitting on all cylinders on Friday night.
Yeah, I think that's the expectation. I think if this offensive line continues to build off the momentum that they got coming into this game, then I think it'll be another dominant performance. And I think as long as Will Howard is not on his back, and I think that'll be based on what offensive line can do that the best. And right now, I think Ohio State's offensive line has been better than Texas. Obviously, because they've just been more dominant. Like Ohio State has just dominated both of their opponents, while Texas hasn't even shown us enough flashes to really seem like a great team. So yeah, I think with this offensive line, I expect them to dominate. And I know Colin Simmons, basically the freshman player of the year, and that's a dog down there, and that's one of the best players in the country, and he's like almost a Jeremiah Smith version on defense. I understand that they have that, and it's going to be tough to stop them, but I mean, Oregon has had that, and their best defensive player came back. Tennessee arguably had the best defensive line throughout the season, and everybody was saying how this beat-up offensive line is going to struggle, and they put them, in their place. So it's like this offensive line has stepped up to the challenge. I don't see Friday being any different. There's nothing about Texas lining up against Texas, there's nothing about them on that defensive line that puts fear in my heart that I don't think Ohio State could do at least a good job, if not a better job than they did against Oregon or Tennessee.
I appreciate my guy Mo Murphy coming on the show here, right here on a Monday of Texas week. He didn't even have to I didn't have to ask him. I know he thinks Ohio State's beating Texas on Friday.
Yeah.
Do you have a score prediction for the game?
Woo! I'm gonna say Ohio State 34, Texas 17. I don't
34.
Yeah, Ohio State 34, Texas 17. I don't think we put up as many points in a blowout fashion. I just think we get ahead and just kind of physically dominate. Like, I think we do get ahead. We slow the game down. We make plays when they're there, but I don't think we look to just kind of run up the score as opposed to control the clock and get ourselves out of there safely. Jump on Texas early and then get ourselves out of there safely, give up some plays here or there. Because our next game after locking that up will be the national championship. So I think you have to be careful about going out guns blazing, trying to put up 50, 60 points. If you're up 21-0, I know it may be a little bit frustrating, but I think you'll expect to see some conservative play calling. If we're up 21-0 like we were against Oregon, I don't know if we explode to try and get to 34-0 because at that point, the next game is the national championship. So I think 34-17.
That's the first score prediction of the week. It's my guy Mo, 34, Ohio State, Texas 17. You'll get mine later in the week, and I'm sure we'll get some more score predictions right here on the show. Follow him on Twitter at Mo_Cheese15. Follow me on the same platform at JSteven07. Buckeye fans, we're up out of here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.